Hey guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my 5-star reads from the last 3 months. That means in the fall of this year. These are all the books I read and gave 5 stars. The list is not that long. I will say one of these months I had like maybe 2 5-star reads. It's been a weird few reading months, but I've also found like all-time favorite books, so we will definitely get started. These are books that all got like officially 5 stars. There's a couple that were like 4.75, but if it was 4.5 or less, this is not on the list. They are for sure like absolute favorites. I'm obsessed. You have to read them. The first one is actually historical romance, which makes me so happy, and it's An Earl to Remember by Stacey Reed. I forgot. I don't even remember where it is on my shelves. It's somewhere. It's right there. I didn't grab it, but this one is an Overboard retelling, and I love fun 80s movies, and I love Overboard. So when I heard it was going to be a retelling of that movie, I was like, absolutely yes. And I love a good amnesia romance, especially when it's in a historical. So this one, the hero and heroine meet, and she's a chef and he is an earl. He's super wealthy, and she's supposed to work on his ship, boat, yacht thing, and things go wrong, and then his mistress gets mad at him and pushes him overboard, and he washes up on shore with no memory except for that he has kissed the heroine and knows her physically. And he tells her that, and she is like, well, it's because we're married, and she needs to help save her reputation, so then they have to pretend to be married. And just like Overboard, he is like kind of put in the working class and has to do things around the house for her and her sisters, and it is so much fun. I love the hero. I love the dynamic between the hero and the heroine. Just like everything about this book was so fun, and I just really liked how he would poke at her, and he would like purposely call her his wife. He'd be like, right wife, and even though he knew something like wasn't right and he didn't fully believe what they were telling him, it was so fun. I flew through this audiobook. I was obsessed. The next one that wasn't like a complete 5 stars, but for sure like 4.75, that is Here With Me by Brooke Montgomery. This book is a ex's dad romance, but I loved the whole small town aspect. So she's a horse trainer, which I really love, and he's a farrier, which I think is how you pronounce it. He's the one who does like the shoe thing on horses. I will watch those for so long when they show up on my TikTok. It's not even funny. I'm so fascinated by it, and the fact that the hero does that I found so cool. And that takes place on the farm, so he is new to working on her parents' farm, and they actually meet at a bar the previous day. She has no idea that he's the dad of her ex. They don't really talk, and normally with like ex's dad romances, they're not really that close, or like the ex is like horrible, but in this one you truly realized and understood the dad's dilemma of falling for this girl and being loyal to his son, because he was really trying to work on his relationship with his son, and that added just this extra layer of conflict, and I felt like it was really realistic, which I appreciated. And it's definitely a super spicy romance, and they're around each other all the time, and there's a little bit of suspense in here too, which I loved. Someone is trying to sabotage some of the horses and her, so I just loved everything about this, and you should read it. The next one was a surprise because I didn't expect to love this because I thought it was going to be a rom-com, but I love this author, so I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. The Love Plot by Samantha Young totally blew me away. This one, the hero and heroine are complete opposites. It's Crumb Sunshine. He is a vet, and she is someone who never has like a conventional job. She is a actor for like kids' parties, and she's also a line sitter, and so she's paid by people to wait in line for things, and she is just very like free spirit, go with the flow. He's the exact opposite, and he is tired of his family setting him up on dates, so they meet at someone's birthday party, and he decides to hire her to be his girlfriend so people stop bothering him, and she says yes, and they fall so hard and fast for each other, and I really loved it. And trying to just like make it work, and also analyzing like what you really want out of life and why, and what you're willing to sacrifice for a significant other, and it was really good and emotional. We do delve into like her parents and her relationship with them, his relationship with his family, who really thinks that he needs someone serious, even though they say they're fine with her, and I just really enjoyed this whole entire book. I flew through this audio as well. Like, if I can just sit there and want to listen to an audiobook in one day, I know it's an amazing book, and I just loved this so much, and their relationship was great, and it's not a rom-com. Don't let the cover fool you. This is definitely not a rom-com. It's definitely more serious, and I really loved it. Then I so wish I had a physical copy of this. I do not, but Manacled, this book, I still think about. I think it put me in like a 2-month reading slump, and that's why I think the next month I only had like 2 5-star reads, because nothing could live up to this book and everything just felt so ordinary after reading this. It's Hermione fan fiction, which means it's Draco and Hermione. This is fan fiction, so no money whatsoever goes to J.K. Rowling. You cannot make money off of this. It's completely free to read online, and it's a chunker. I think it's over 1,000 pages, but I read it in 2 days. I was obsessed. This takes place after the war in Harry Potter, and I think it's best if you know Harry Potter, though I've had friends who haven't really known the whole plot of Harry Potter read this and really like it, but just knowing the characters made it that much harder to read because so many people are dead, and Hermione's basically put into a Handmaid's Tale situation where she's part of a breeding program and placed with Draco and his wife to have babies with Draco. And it was honestly one of the most heart-wrenching, engrossing, and amazing romances I've ever read. At the end of this book, I literally sobbed. Like, I have not cried that hard, and I literally for the next like 2 days was like a zombie. Like, anytime I thought about it or saw a TikTok about it, I would start crying. And I tried to talk to a friend right after finishing it, and just started crying more. I was like, it's just not fair. Like, this book, it does have an HEA, I will say that. It is considered a romance, but it is a tragic romance, and it is just so good. Like, if you read anything that I talk about, read this book. I'm obsessed. Okay, then for this month, we do have Shadows of You by Catherine Cowles. This one is book 4 in the Lost and Found series. It is Rowan's book. Rowan is very grumpy because when he was younger, he was accused of murder, and he didn't do it, and so he has trust issues and keeps to himself and doesn't really let anybody in, even his own family. And then Aspen comes into town, and Aspen is definitely hiding from something, and we don't really know a lot about it until things are revealed throughout the book. And she is in town with her daughter. She's a single mom, and something happens on her property where she needs to call wildlife, and Rowan works for them, so he comes and they meet, and then they start growing closer. And I loved Rowan and her daughter's relationship. It was so cute. She was being bullied. He was like, I'm gonna take care of that problem, and I'm just like, yes. And it's just such a really sweeping romance. I think out of all of them, this one has definitely done the best in the series as well, so it's a fan favorite as well. They're all romantic suspense though, so we do have someone sabotaging someone and them trying to figure out who it is and taking down the bad guy, but it's so good. Oh my gosh, the twist in here too I did not see coming. I was shocked. So definitely check out Catherine Cowles. I have actually 2 books by an author to talk about in this video, and the first one is Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. This is my favorite book in the Twisted series. I was blown away by this book. It is super long, but I literally could not stop reading it. I wanted more of Christian and Stella? Yes, Stella. So Stella's actually a social media influencer, which I find really hard to read about because I know so much about it, but I think Anna Huang did such a good job with Stella's character. So Stella lost her job, and she's trying to make her influencer like gig a full-time thing. She's almost at 1 million followers, but she's been stuck, and people are like, you know, couples really do better, and people really care when you're in a relationship. So she decides she wants to be in a relationship, goes on a couple dates, they're horrible, and then Christian had met her a couple times, and he is this billionaire security guy, and he is like, I will fake date you, and he has his own reasons, and she's like, okay. So they start fake dating, and she goes to like these really extravagant galas with him, and they fall in love, and Christian is literally touch her and you die. This read much like a mafia romance because Christian deals in security, but he's like not afraid to do illegal things, and he does some illegal things in here, and they were so good. And Stella has a stalker. So this one was very romantic suspense for me too, which I love if you can't tell in a book. So I was obsessed with their story. Christian is just a very quiet but very intense guy, and his love is intense, and it was so good. Like I said, my favorite of the series, and I'm annoyed that I put it off for so long. Okay, so that was it for September. Now we're into October, where I did not have that many. I think there are 2 or 3 that I had. So the first one is my next Anna Huang, and that is King of Greed. This one is so angsty. It is a second chance marriage and crisis romance. So the heroine, I always forget their names. It's Dom and Alessandra. So Alessandra has been married to Dom for 10 years, and he is someone who's obsessed with money and work. He wants to be bigger and better than ever and wants everything. And we get flashbacks to when they started dating in college and falling in love, to now where Alessandra is like, my husband's not even my husband anymore. He's never around, and he does something that messes up big time, and she's like, I'm done. we're getting a divorce. He comes home to an empty house and goes just insane. And I love how he immediately just drops everything to win her back. And it's definitely not the same grovel that she had in the Twisted series. Like if you've read Twisted Love, you know Alex really groveled in that book. In this one, it's his own kind of grovel in a way that really affected him specifically as a character in his own sacrifices. So I think that's important to know when you go into this one. But oh my gosh, was this amazing. They fell in love all over again, and he was very jealous and had to wait though and really show her he wanted her back. Obsessed. 5 stars. So then I will talk about The Phantom of Dur Lane by Kate Bateman. This is a historical romance, and it is kind of Phantom of the Opera based, not really. There is this phantom in a mask that is haunting the theater. The hero and the heroine have known each other for a long time. He's her brother's best friend, and she really liked him, and they actually shared a moment, and then he was like, no, this can't happen. So he breaks her heart. And so they go their separate ways for years. He goes off into the military, and she goes traveling. Now they're back, and he's still pushing her buttons, and he's like, I bet you can't figure out who this masked person is. And so she's like, I will try. And they end up falling in love. And it's a novella, but it had so much emotion and depth and just such a sweeping romance that I was obsessed. This author did the pacing so well. I'm very hard to please when it comes to novellas, but I loved this. So if you want a quick, really interesting novella that has such a great premise and a romance, read this one. So those were the only like actual 5-star reads during October. I told you it was not the best reading month, but I will talk about Tame the Heart by Ava Hunter. This one I gave a really high 4.5 stars, and this one is a cowboy romance where the hero owns a ranch. He lost someone in his past, and he is very closed off and guarded and won't talk about it. The heroine has a heart condition, and she's been really sheltered by her dad and her brother, so she decides to create this bucket list and leave and go have adventures, and she does, and she winds up at his ranch, and she offers to help with their social media after something happens that does not put their ranch in a good light. And he has a bunch of brothers, and they're all trying to run this ranch, and it's so good. He reluctantly allows her to stay. She is so can I say that word? She is so sunshine, and he is very grumpy, and they start spending time together though, and hopelessly falling in love, and someone is trying to sabotage the ranch as well. So there's a little bit of a mystery there, which I always love in my romances, and I just love a good romance that takes place on a ranch. Like, I will eat it up, and I really loved it. I think that there were some things I didn't super love surrounding her hiding her condition and not taking care of herself 100%, but overall it was just such a good romance, and I loved their relationship, and I loved his relationship with his brothers. I cannot wait for their romances, especially some that were hinted at in this book, but great solid start to a series. And that was October. So now we're gonna move into November, our last month, and oh, I always forget I have this in paperback. The first one, is it behind me? No. Is An Island Princess Starts a Scandal by Adriana Herrera. This one I read for my Patreon book club, and I was obsessed. One of my new favorite historical romances of the year. This one is a sapphic historical romance. It takes place in Paris, and we have one heroine who's very jaded when it comes to love because she had her heart broken and she just doesn't want to let anybody in, and another heroine who is very much wanting to live life to the fullest, embrace love, embrace everything, and she is new to Paris, and she wants the other heroine to show her the debauched ways of women of Paris, and so she takes her around to some clubs, and it's so much fun. I loved this setting as a historical romance, and it's not your typical like Regency ballroom London. It's so full of culture and such interesting characters, and I was obsessed with their romance. Like, they kiss so early on, and so that tension just simmers, and they are so attracted to each other, and you can just feel it through the pages, and I loved it. Definitely had spice in here, and them trying to figure out how to make it work, and I just loved it so much. Then I have one of my new favorite books of the year, that is After the Storm by Laura Pavlov. This one is so good. It is a second chance romance, and we have our hero who's a single dad, and our heroine who is just getting divorced. She's a big lawyer in the city, and she is moving back home for a little bit to take care of her dad. They are reunited and have to address old feelings, and they know that even if they hang out, it's going to come to an end because she has to go back to her life, but she falls so hard for him and his daughter again, and it's so good. I love all the text between the family members. I loved the whole small town aspect. Small town has been really hitting it lately for me, and this one was just so good. I love this series, but this one's by far my favorite. The angst in here was everything. So much tension between them, so much desperation in the romance. I just obsessed. Then I have The Puck Secret by GN Wright. I did do a video recently of books I'm obsessed with. Because I'm doing Bookmas, I have a lot of videos back to back, so I am doing these a little bit close, so sorry if these are getting repetitive from that previous video. But this one is a hockey romance where the hero hates the heroine because of things that their parents did, and he is a teammate with her brother, and the story starts off of her texting something really personal to the wrong number, and it's his number, but they don't know. We just know as a reader, and they start texting each other, building a friendship, building feelings, but also in real life, they have a hateful hookup, and then can't stop thinking about each other in real life. So we have this kind of like two little romances going, but like it's with the same people, and him really coming to terms with the fact that he might be liking her, even though he claims to hate her, and it's so good. Like the desperation in their romance was amazing. I love a romance where they're just so desperately in love with each other and like don't know what to do about it. It's so good. You have to read this. Okay, I have 3 books left. So then I have Where We Started by Ashley Munoz. This one definitely was a 4.5 star, but only because of the ending. The rest of this book was so amazing, and I just want to talk about it whenever I can. Motorcycle romance. The heroine grew up in a motorcycle club. Her dad was a president. She hated that lifestyle, and so she would go to this tree house where the hero was, and they grew up and fell in love, and then they couldn't stay together. Something happened, she left, and now she's back in town because her dad died, and he is now the president of the motorcycle club. So she resents him a lot for being involved in the motorcycle club and doesn't want to be around him, but she has to be there because there are some bad, dangerous things happening, and so we definitely have suspense in here, which I love with a motorcycle romance, and the hero was everything. I loved him so much, and definitely very angsty because they're obviously still so in love with each other, but they couldn't make it work because of life and things, and now they're back together, and he does not want to be liking her because of what happened, but he is liking her, and it's just so good. If you like motorcycle romances, for sure read this. It's definitely not as violent as some get, so if you are new to motorcycle romances and don't want something super dark, check this one out. Speaking of motorcycle romances, it cannot be a video without a new Gianna Darling book. She finally released this, and I loved it. Axeman and May's story is so good. I read the ebook, so I didn't realize like exactly how long it was. It's over 600 pages. This one's Axeman and May's story. It's a best friend's dad romance. He is the stepdad to Cleo, who is May's best friend. They grew up together, and she realized when she was 18 that she is madly in love with Axeman, but then he goes to prison because of something that she does, and 8 years later she is back in town, has not spoken to him since he went to prison, and he is angry. He hates her guts, and so it's very hate-filled but passion-filled, and there's a lot of mystery and action going on in here, so again, more suspense, which I love, and definitely a plot that has to do with dead man walking, so read that first before you get into this one. But I loved everything about this romance. So spicy, but so good. May is a character who knows how to take care of herself. She's amazing. I love this. Read it. And my last one's a Christmas romance, and that is Wreck My Plans by Jillian Meadows. This one is a Christmas romance, and it's definitely angsty as well, and the hero and heroine are about 10 years apart. It's a brother's best friend romance. He never had a family growing up, so he was pretty much taken in by her family. Very fond family. He doesn't want to ruin that, and so he never makes a move on her, and something happened 3 years ago, and he has not been back for Christmas since. She's not supposed to be at Christmas, but she lost her job, so she ends up coming home, and he is there, and he bakes, he's tattooed, he's an architect, and they have to spend a lot of time together. There's only one bed, forced proximity, and they just cannot stay away from each other, even though they're trying so hard not to like each other because they don't want to risk their family and their current relationship, but they are both pining so hard, and he is so in love with her. I love this so much. I had so much fun. It's definitely a little shorter. It's less than 300 pages, so you can fly through the story, but I absolutely loved it. You have to pick it up this holiday season. And those are all the books that I gave 5 stars in the fall. It's not as many as normal, but I have high hopes for the winter because I'm already off to a great reading start in December, and I have amazing reading plans, and I want to read way more 5-star reads. But let me know if you've read these and what your thoughts were, what your recent 5-star reads were. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.